Okay, look, $28 billion. The MCU has made $28 billion. The DCEU made what, 6.7 billion? I mean, how is this even a conversation?
Because The Dark Knight is better than every single MCU film ever made. It's quality over quality, man.
The Dark Knight came out in 2008. Come on, we're talking about entire universes here, not one great movie.
One great movie that won an Oscar, changed superhero cinema forever, and is literally studied in film schools. When's the last time someone, studied Ant-Man?
Hey, Ant-Man made $600 million, and it was part of the most successful film franchise in history. That matters.
Right, but Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, these guys have been cultural icons for 80 years. 80! They existed before Marvel Comics was even a thing.
And Marvel has what, 30 plus films averaging 850 million each?
That's unprecedented consistency. Consistency at being pretty good. DC aims higher, and, sometimes it achieves greatness. The Dark Knight, Joker winning an Oscar.
The Batman getting 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. Three movies out of how many attempts? Batman v Superman, a disaster. Suicide Squad was a disaster. Justice League, an absolute disaster. See, the DCEU doesn't represent DC's best work. That's my entire point. DC's best is better than Marvel's best.
But Marvel's average is so much better than DC's average. Kevin Feige built a universe where, like, almost every single film works.
Because they're all the same. Same tone, same humor, same formula.
No, they're not all the same. Come on. Guardians of the Galaxy is a space comedy. Winter Soldier is a political thriller. Ragnarok is just insane.
They're all Marvel. You know it. Quippy dialogue, third act sky beam, hero wins. DC actually takes risks.
Risks that fail. They fail more often than they succeed. The DCEU tried to rush a cinematic universe, and it couldn't even figure out what it wanted to be.
Because DC doesn't need a formula. Each film can just be its own thing. Joker is nothing like Wonder Woman. The Batman is nothing like Aquaman.
And none of them connect or build on each other. Marvel built an interconnected story across 23 films leading to Endgame. That's unprecedented.
It's also limiting. Every Marvel film has to set up the next one instead of just being, complete on its own.
They are complete on their own, and they're part of something bigger. That's the genius of it.
The genius is making people feel like they have to watch everything or they'll miss something. It's manufactured obligation.
Or it's rewarding fans who invest in the story. The payoff of Endgame only works because of the 22 films that came before it.
And yeah, Endgame made $2.8 billion. Incredible. But it's still not as good as The Dark Knight. That's subjective. It's really not. The Dark Knight has 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. It won Heath Ledger an Oscar. It's considered one of the greatest films ever made, period. Endgame was the highest grossing film of all time, briefly. That's a cultural event.
Box office doesn't equal quality. Avatar is the highest grossing film ever. Is it the best film ever made?
No, but consistent box office success across 30 films shows that people love what Marvel's doing.
People love what's familiar and easy. Marvel gives them that. DC challenges them.
DC confuses them. Why does Batman have 3 different origins in 10 years?
Because DC allows for different creative visions. Nolan's Batman, Snyder's Batman, Reeves' Batman, they're all valid interpretations.
All contradicting each other. Marvel maintained continuity and coherence.
At the cost of artistic vision, every Marvel film looks and feels like it was made by a committee.
A very successful committee. And they let directors have freedom. Taika Waititi made Thor Ragnarok weird and funny. James Gunn made Guardians unique.
James Gunn is now making DC films because even he knows DC allows more freedom.
He's making DC films because he got fired from Marvel temporarily and DC hired him. Then Marvel rehired him, then he went back to DC. It's a whole thing.
Because DC offered him creative control over an entire universe. Marvel wouldn't do that.
Because Marvel has Kevin Feige with a unified vision. DC has had, 5 different visions in 10 years?
And one of them produced the Dark Knight trilogy.
Which isn't even part of the DCEU. You can't claim it for the cinematic universe when it's completely separate.
I'm claiming it for DC. The characters are DC. The quality is DC. That's what matters.
Okay, fine. Then I'm claiming the Spider-Man films back to 2002 and the X-Men films. All Marvel characters.
Those aren't MCU.
Exactly. So if we're comparing MCU to DCEU, MCU destroys it. 28 billion to 6.7 billion.
Fine, let's talk animation. Batman the Animated Series, the definitive Batman, introduced Harley Quinn, won 4 Emmys.
Okay, DC wins animation. I'll concede that.
Justice League Unlimited, over 50 animated movies, all better than Marvel's animated output.
Because Marvel focused on live action, where they dominate completely.
Because they can't do animation. DC excels in multiple mediums.
Marvel excels in the medium that makes the most money and reaches the most people, cinema.
And DC excels in the medium that actually serves the characters, comics, animation, individual masterpieces.
Marvel leads comic market share, 33.3% to DC's 26.9%.
And in November 2024, DC had 9 of the top 10 best-selling comics. Absolute Batman was the year's bestseller.
1 month. I'm talking sustained market leadership.
And I'm talking creative excitement. DC's Absolute Universe is generating buzz Marvel can't match right now.
Right now. Marvel dominated for a decade.
Because they're competent and consistent, DC swings for the fences.
And strikes out more often. I'd rather have consistent quality than occasional brilliance.
And I'd rather have The Dark Knight than 20 pretty good movies.
And I'd rather have the Infinity Saga than one great trilogy that doesn't connect to anything else.
Because you value quantity over quality.
No, I value both. Marvel has both.
Marvel has consistency. DC has peak greatness.
Okay, let's talk characters. Iron Man, Captain America, Spider-Man, Black Panther, they're all massive now.
Now. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman have been massive for 80 years. They're not trendy, they're timeless.
Iron Man is timeless now too. Robert Downey Jr. defined that character for a generation.
For one generation. Batman has been redefined successfully by multiple actors across multiple generations. That's true timelessness.
Because DC keeps rebooting him. Marvel built something that actually lasted.
For 15 years. Let's see if people still care about the MCU in 50 years.
They will, because it's the most successful franchise in film history.
Superman 1978 created the superhero film genre. Without that, there is no MCU.
And without the MCU proving the shared universe model works, the DCEU tried that and failed.
The DCEU failed because Warner Bros. Panicked and kept changing direction, not because the characters aren't good.
And Marvel succeeded because they had a plan and stuck with it. That's leadership. That's vision.
That's playing it safe. DC takes risks. Joker is a billion-dollar R-rated character study about mental illness.
That's great. One brilliant, risky film. Marvel made Endgame, Black Panther, Guardians of the Galaxy, all massive hits that took risks.
Massive hits, yes, but none of them transcended the genre like The Dark Knight or won an acting Oscar like Joker.
Because the Oscars have a bias against genre films. Black Panther was nominated for Best Picture.
And didn't win. Joker won Best Actor, the first acting Oscar for a superhero role ever.
Joaquin Phoenix is incredible, but one Oscar doesn't make DC supreme.
What makes DC supreme is having the most iconic characters in comic history, the Trinity, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman.
And what makes Marvel supreme is building a shared cinematic universe that made B-list characters matter to mainstream audiences in a way DC couldn't with their A-listers.
DC's characters have always mattered. They didn't need a cinematic universe to prove it.
Then why did the DCEU exist? Why try to copy Marvel's model if DC was already supreme?
Because Warner Bros. Saw Marvel making money and wanted the same. But DC's strength isn't in copying Marvel, it's in doing its own thing.
Which is making what, exactly? Standalone films that don't connect?
Quality films that stand on their own merit. Not everything needs to be a puzzle piece.
When you're building a universe, yes it does. And Marvel built the best universe.
The most commercially successful universe. The best characters are still DC.
More iconic doesn't mean better. Iron Man is more interesting than Superman.
Iron Man is interesting because of Robert Downey Jr. Superman is interesting because of 80 years of mythology and what he represents.
A boring Boy Scout?
An aspirational symbol of hope, the blueprint for every hero that followed.
Who can relate to an invincible alien? Iron Man has PTSD, ego problems, relationship issues. That's relatable.
Superman's struggle isn't physical, it's moral. How do you be a good person when you have unlimited power? That's profound.
And it's explored more interestingly through characters like Captain America and Spider-Man, who actually face consequences.
Superman faces consequences constantly. He just handles them differently because of who he is.
Look, we're not agreeing on this.
Never have, never will.
All right, final arguments then. Let's settle this properly.
With pleasure.
All right. Marvel is supreme because they accomplished what no franchise has ever done. They built a shared cinematic universe across 30-plus films, generating $28 billion. Averaging $850 million per film. They maintained consistent quality with Kevin Feige's singular vision, creating a model that changed Hollywood forever. Avengers Endgame, it culminated 11 years of storytelling into, temporarily the highest-grossing film of all time.
Right?
They successfully expanded to Disney Plus with quality shows, continuing the narratives. They created relatable characters, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, who deal with real human problems while saving the world. They dominate comic market share, 33.3%. They proved audiences will follow interconnected stories if you respect them and deliver consistent quality. That's not just commercial success. That's revolutionizing cinema and proving superhero films can be both art and entertainment simultaneously. That is supremacy.
Okay. But DC is supreme because they created the most iconic characters in entertainment history. Superman invented the superhero genre in 1938. DC dominates animation with Batman the Animated Series, defining the character. Vertigo published Sandman and Watchmen, literary masterpieces that transcended comics entirely. Superman 1978 created the modern superhero film genre before Marvel even existed in cinema. DC doesn't follow trends or formulas. They set standards and take creative risks. Their peaks are higher, their characters are timeless icons, and their best work represents the pinnacle of what superhero storytelling can be. That is supremacy.
So, it's commercial dominance versus cultural legacy.
Consistency versus artistic peaks.
$28 billion versus The Dark Knight.
And both matter, just in different ways.
Except one built something unprecedented that changed how Hollywood operates.
And one created the characters Hollywood built everything with.
28 films of sustained quality.
3 films that achieved masterpiece status.
Iron Man redefining heroes for modern audiences.
Superman defining what a hero is for 80 years.
And here's what drives me crazy. You cite The Dark Knight like it erases every single failure DC has had.
I cite it because one masterpiece matters more than 30 competent films following a formula.
Competent? We made a talking raccoon and a tree beloved global icons. That's not formula, that's creative genius.
Look, making weird characters likable is impressive. Creating characters that last 80 years across all mediums is legendary.
Batman's lasted by being rebooted every decade. That's not longevity, that's creative bankruptcy forcing reinvention.
It's creative flexibility. Each generation gets their definitive Batman. Marvel's locked into one continuity that could collapse.
Our continuity is a feature. People invest in it. That's why Endgame made $2.8 billion.
And Joker made $1 billion with zero continuity or universe required. Standalone brilliance.
Except my approach built a sustainable franchise worth billions annually. Yours makes isolated great films every 5 years.
I'd rather have one Dark Knight than 5 forgettable Marvel sequels nobody talks about.
We learned and improved. Phase 3 was incredible. DC keeps making the same structural mistakes.
Because DC prioritizes creative risk over a safe formula. Risk means occasional spectacular failure.
And Marvel proves you can innovate within a framework that actually works consistently.
Or it proves audiences accept mediocrity if it connects to something they've invested emotionally.
Calling the MCU mediocre is delusional. Black Panther, Infinity War, Winter Soldier, these are genuinely great films.
They're good films, elevated by context. The Dark Knight is great, regardless of what came before or after.
And so is Endgame. It's the culmination of a decade-long narrative. That's ambitious storytelling.
Ambitious franchise management. The Dark Knight is ambitious filmmaking. There's a fundamental difference.
Both are ambitious. Both succeeded. Mine reached more people and made more impact financially.
And mine achieved higher critical acclaim and won more prestigious awards for artistic merit.
Joker won Best Actor. Black Panther was nominated for Best Picture. We're both being recognized.
Nominated isn't winning. And Joker proved superhero films can compete at the highest level when they prioritize art.
Or when they're barely superhero films. Joker is a character study using a DC name.
Exactly. DC characters are rich enough to sustain deep exploration. Can you imagine a billion-dollar character study about Hawkeye?
We gave Hawkeye a Disney Plus series people loved and talked about for months.
A television show. We're discussing cinema and cinematic achievement.
The MCU transcends cinema into multimedia storytelling. That's the future of entertainment.
The future where everything requires homework. Not everyone wants mandatory viewing lists.
Box office numbers consistently prove otherwise. People embrace the interconnected model.
Recent numbers suggest Marvel fatigue is real. The formula is wearing thin.
Because we're between sagas, building to something new. Wait for it.
Meanwhile, The Batman made $770 million, and audiences want more standalone quality.
And Guardians 3 made $846 million. We're both succeeding in different ways.
Except DC succeeds by being artistically ambitious. Marvel succeeds by being commercially reliable.
We succeed by being both. There's a difference between reliability and formulaic repetition.
This debate will never end.
Because we're defending completely different value systems.
I value artistic achievement and creative risk.
And I value sustained excellence and narrative ambition across interconnected stories.
And both approaches shaped modern superhero cinema.
In fundamentally opposite directions.
Which proves there's room for both philosophy.
But only one can be supreme.
And it's DC.
It's absolutely Marvel.
The foundation everything was built on. Two completely different visions of what superhero cinema should be.
The franchise that perfected the model and dominated globally.